Okay. All right. Thanks everybody for turning up for the webinar today. Really excited to obviously go through and learn a lot more about DIT technologies. Of course, there's aspects of this which I'm already going to know, but it's really great to sit down with you, Mark. We've been working together now for a few months on getting this offer prepared and this offer live. And so it's really exciting, the work that you've done to date to really build up the business, and it's grown exponentially over the last couple of years. And I think that that's what I'm so excited to be sharing with everybody today here in this webinar. So just a quick introduction from myself. I'm Robin Holt. I head up the campaign management team here, and I've been working with Mark and Ali, who's also tuning into the webinar today, to of course, give everybody the opportunity to own shares into DIT Technologies. So Mark, I'm just going to hand it over to you quickly to obviously go through this presentation that you've prepared quickly, to fully understand exactly a bit more about DIT and the business itself, so that we can really kind of talk through the process of raising funds for the business and how you've got here. So over to you, Mark.
Thanks, Robbie. Thanks again. And it's been great so far working with Virtual. It's been a pleasure. We really appreciate your support as well. So, thanks everyone for joining in today. Again, we're really humbled with the result today that we've had from investors and the amount of EOIs. And I can personally say that I think I've nearly spoken to every single investor that has registered. It's a very big job, but it's been really important to say good day to everyone. So this is a good opportunity to tell you a bit more about DIT, but probably more importantly for you all to ask some questions. So I'm going to keep it pretty high level, the introduction, and we'll use the time to have a bit more of a conversation about the business, about AgTech, some of our core beliefs in the business. So we can move through the slides. Thank you, Robbie. We can go to the next one. So again, that's I'll just tell you, that's a photo out of Rocklands on the Barkly tablelands with one of our customers, and all those cattle there are being supplemented by the water. So that gives you a bit of an idea, sort of what we're doing out in the middle of nowhere. We're right with the next one. So I think where I wanted to start was I wanted to sort of start so people can understand what our why is as a business. And as the leader of DIT and the founder, what's been really important when we're building our culture here is that every single person who works here and all of our other stakeholders is the reason we're doing it. And of course, I know a lot of people think sometimes it's all about money. And don't get me wrong, money's important. But what's more important is that the work we're actually doing at DIT is making a difference. So I'll go through and finalise on what our why is. But the thing that is really worrying to myself is just the growth in world population. There's 7.8 billion people on the planet at the moment. We're expecting in 30 years that to go to nearly 10 billion people, 9.8 billion people. This is a really huge effect that it's going to have on our planet, on the sustainability of our planet and the environment. But more importantly, we have to feed everyone. And the frightening statistics is the sheer volume of food that we're going to have to increase. And in some circumstances, in some parts of the planet, it's going to be up to 100% where countries are going to have to increase their food production. That's really, really hard to do because of things like global warming, growing population, less water, droughts, bushfires, and those things. So the way we're going to do that is with tech and innovation. We can go to the next slide. Thanks, Robbie. So really, at the back of us is we're really powered by the knowledge that our products will enhance the producer's ability to increase their production while having minimal environmental impact. Why this is important is that we've really found a problem in agriculture, and what we've tried to do is to solve that problem and run in Australia it's supplementation. So really we're an innovative AgTech and animal health business, and we're shoring up food production for society by helping farmers. So really our why is to produce more food, more sustainably, ethically, and at scale. And that's what drives everyone in the business. Every day, these are sort of things we're talking about, and making sure that all the products that we're manufacturing and all the services we're providing to our farmers meets those criteria, and we are making a difference. The next thing I want to talk about high level is what's in it for you and investing in DIT. You know, AgTech and food tech offers investors the ability to be part of the next tech disruption to transform civilization. It's not just as an investment by joining DIT, you're actually part of the solution. And in previous disruptions, thanks, Rory. So in previous tech disruptions, it's all been about really around smartphones and social media that had a lot to do with our own convenience, entertainment. But AgTech and food tech is really important because it's a lot more about our collective survival. So our investors who invest with DIT are actually part of the solution on how we're going to feed a growing population.
Absolutely.
Something we've asked a fair bit is how do we make money? So firstly, I'll say we decided to find a problem in the livestock industry that we knew we could solve. And we worked out, could we bring value to the producers immediately? Could we reduce the impact on their grazing lands? Could we enhance animal welfare? And the thing we looked at was water supplementing. And supplementation after labour on enlarged grazing properties in Australia is pretty well the second biggest expense that farmers have on their properties. So the way we make money is by selling our IoT devices, Internet of Things. We sell doses and tank monitors, remote cameras. We also rent these devices. We sell animal health products to our customers in the form of supplements and health products into their drinking water. And the last way we make money is we sell data packages. So we're as much a telecommunications business as we're an animal health business, as we're an AgTech business. And that photo there is of one of our doses, again, out of the Northern Territory. And that doser there, you can see the supplement. That's the supplement we manufacture. There's the tech. You probably can't see it too clearly, but on top of that doser is an IDP, and it's communicating with satellite, and we're remotely monitoring the nutritional requirements of those cattle back at our head office here with our technicians. We're working side by side with our customers. And the product there is pumped into that black line, that pipe, which is poly pipe. And right there to that installation, that product is going to 50 kilometres of pipe and charging 3 large tanks of 60,000 litres across in a paddock that's about 100,000 acres. Compared to what they used to do, they would drive around the paddock and put blocks out, or lip blocks, very labour intensive. By those customers taking on our supplements and our tech, that's the end result on how they supplement their livestock. And more importantly, every animal is getting the correct dose by day. So they're the 4 ways we make money as a business. Next slide, thanks, Willie. I think what's really important, I wanted to bring to everyone's attention today on why I think we're a good business to invest is because we've got a track record. Now, we're not asking people to invest at the moment on an idea and a great business plan. We've already proved that from our first equity crowdfund 18 months ago, we did what we said we were going to do. We went from 1 office to 8 offices in 12 months. So going forward, what are we going to do with this particular? And we're going to focus on growing our revenues across Australia and building out our footprint and our brand. And the map there, which is also in the offer document, gives you an idea on how we're going to execute that in the next 12 months. Additionally, we're really eager to become a global livestock technology business, of course, like all businesses. And I know we all get sick and tired of the word, but COVID has affected us, and that has reduced our ability to expand. So we're really keen to get into New Zealand and Southeast Asia next year, and our ambition is to be in North America by 2022.
Amazing.
Exit strategy. A lot of the people I've spoken to have all said to me, how do we get a return on our money? What's the big plan for DIT? We're really keen to explore an IPO on the ASX. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but people want to know what is our exit strategy. So that's the strategy that the board has decided on. That's quite advanced, that strategy as well. We're about to put on a new director onto our board that has taken 20 businesses as an IPO on the ASX. So this particular gentleman comes to us with 40 years experience as a director on ASX listed businesses and helping businesses like DIT to move to that position so that we can find that liquidity event for our early shareholders and also any of the shareholders that come in on this round now. Also, a lot of people want to know what our Moonshot ideas, you know, what really are the really big things that we're targeting for one day. And again, I don't like getting too far ahead of myself. I'm really focused now on just the core business and being the best we can in class. But the things, the Moonshot ideas as a business we're interested in, we're really interested in methane reduction and how we could use our technology and our sales network that we're building to actually distribute these products. They're well advanced, these products, at the university level. One of the issues that a lot of these people who have developed these products is going to be delivery. That's the most valuable thing that we have in DIT is the ability to be able to take these products, inject them into the water and reduce methane by the animals consuming the product through the water. It's something we're well advanced and something that I'm really passionate about. Virtual fencing, for people who don't know what virtual fencing is, it's the ability to be able to, with a GPS ear tag, identify where animals are and then to be able to remotely control their behaviour so that they muster themselves, that we can move them from one pasture to another. It sounds very funky, virtual fencing, and it sounds like it's such a moonshot idea. Again, the tech's really advanced with a lot of operators. We think that it's something that we'd like to be interested in. We strongly believe it's not a tech play as much as an animal behaviour play. And again, that's another one of our fundamental strength in DIT as a tech business. We've got a vast amount of experience in animal behaviour and how we could implement that tech. And probably lastly, the big moonshot idea is our ability to warehouse our data that we're collecting from all of our sources. We're warehousing a lot of data now around drinking patterns, nutritional patterns, water monitoring. All this data is being put together for a time when we could potentially take that data and the other data from other sources like weather sources, commodity prices, and create an AI or software platform to help farmers as a financial analyst tool that sits in their hands. So they're sort of the three big moonshot ideas that we've got as a business. But again, I don't want to sort of focus on that too much. I think what we want to do really in the short term is to implement our strategy and keep our growth strategy going that we have already.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I suppose, Robbie, we can get into some of the questions.
Yep, we absolutely can. And I just want to say before I ask some of these questions, which have kind of come as a result of a few questions that Mark and the team have been asked throughout the capital raise, I'd love to indicate and show everybody the Q&A feature, which you can find down in the bottom bar. To ask questions in there, we will be picking them up as we go. You don't have to wait until the end of these questions for me to pick up your questions, so we can answer them as we're going through these ones which have been put together from really a collective. So just to really highlight that, that's a great introduction to DIT and what it's done so far. I feel like you've just scratched the surface of what you're doing as a business itself. And you've obviously raised some capital before, you've had some impressive growth of revenue, but how many farms are you operating in now? And what does the growth trajectory look like across Australia from here, perhaps over the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, so Robbie, as a lot of people would know, our revenues have increased 1,200% in the last 2 years. Again, I keep looking backwards. We've proven that when we raise capital, we actually execute on what we're doing. We've got a track record. We would have over 300 customers that are using our devices, whether it be our monitoring devices or our doses or who are buying our supplements. Probably in our core business where we're supplementing upwards of 300,000 head of cattle at certain times during the year. We have onboarded pretty well 5 of the largest grazing pastoral companies in this country. Collectively, that those businesses would have about 1.5 to 1.7 million head of cattle. So they're our customers now, and we're slowly rolling out our technology. We're implementing that on their operations. We're working with them in a very strategic manner. We're really happy with the way our customers are going in Northern Australia. Again, Southern Australia, pre-COVID, we were getting some great results down there. We were getting some great data from trials we were running in dairy, wheat and sheep areas, in intensive beef production in Southern Australia. Been a bit on hibernation now, but we're really keen to see COVID go away. There's 16,000 farmers in the world, and we'd like to be able to touch quite a few of them somehow.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, look, saving money and reducing the environmental impact on traditional farming as it currently stands, it sounds incredibly labor intensive for farmers before you went in and provided them with actually technological solutions, which perhaps they weren't even aware of in some cases, but would love to have jumped at. And your revenue has really just shown that. So how much have you reduced so far and saved to date? And obviously the questions here so people can see, obviously.
Yeah. So we've got customers that we've got data where we've halved their supplement bill. Customers who are spending many hundreds of thousands of dollars on supplements within their animal production businesses, and we've cut that in half from a saving. And that's a really valuable metric for people to understand. But what's more important is the actual production gains that we're seeing. Because when you supplement animals at the right amount, at the right time on a regular basis, you see production gains. And this goes back to our why. You know, why are we doing? We need to increase food production. So we're seeing some of our customers having conception rates of increasing by up to 15% in some cases. We're seeing increased body weight and average daily gains with their animals. We're also seeing enhancement in their animal welfare. They're in stressful events in transport, in weaning. They're seeing results where the animals are being supplemented with some of our welfare products, and they're in a much better state to be able to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know that you wanted me to ask about, obviously, your career to date in a way, in the sense that this isn't your first business. With most entrepreneurs, it's not your first business. And some businesses didn't perform so well. I think everybody who's been in that position is, you know, likely to have had a couple of businesses fail or not go so well. You know, it's part of the process of really learning how to grow the business. So what do you think it is that's kind of put you in the position where with DIT you've had such exceptional growth, and why you think that kind of you're the best position to lead going forward?
Yeah, Robbie, it's never comfortable for anyone to talk about their failures. But I've also learned that, you know, as a leader and someone, you need to own when things haven't gone right. And in business, there's a lot of things that are outside of your control, and sometimes they're completely outside of your control and not your fault. But as a leader, it's your problem. You know, you need to act in the best corporate governance and in the best interests of shareholders and investors. Those particular circumstances you're talking about, and a lot of the successes, I think, has actually shaped me to the person I am now. I'm a great believer that, you know, failure is as important as success. And the great thing about DIT is DIT is not about myself anymore. It was in the early days. You know, I was the visionary and the person that was developing the team and leading them to where we are now. But DIT is so much more than myself now. You know, we've got a great board. We're putting more really experienced directors on to take us to that next journey. We've got some immensely talented young people who are the future leaders in ag, who work alongside of me, and every day I'm inspired by their passion and their skill set and their ability. So I believe that DIT is in a really good position with myself at the helm, because we've built a great team. And as a leader also, it's important to have a virtual bench if something was to happen to you. DIT is in a good position now with the people we have to continue moving forward.
That's great. That's awesome. And we've actually got a question, and I've got to stop the share to be able to bring up the Q&A, because obviously I can't bring up the Q&A itself. So we've just had a question here from Taryn. So what proportion of capital expenditure is going into the Moonshot ideas? Interesting question.
Not very much at the moment, I can assure you.
That's what I thought.
We are, again, you know, I could talk all day long about Moonshot ideas and our vision. People who are investing want to know, like, what have we done in the past? What's our track record? Most of our capital that we're raising will be going into the nuts and bolts of the business 101, to get ourselves, grow our revenues, become profitable. And then as we go forward, you know, we probably see 5 to 10% in time that we'll be spending on those Moonshot ideas. Right now, we are spending time on it. You know, some of the guys have taken some of these projects. In fact, our COO, Tom Fates, is really interested in the methane opportunity. He would probably spend 5 hours a week on that. but that's not our core focus. Our core focus is business 101.
Sure thing. That's great. That's great. And to anybody else who has any other questions which aren't being asked here, please do add them in the Q&A feature and we'll pick them up and go through. I will just share my screen again so we can pick up the next round of questions. So bear with me 1 second. All right. And we're back. So question number 4, you've had exceptional growth over the last 2 years. We've kind of talked about this and how it's gone to over 3.5 million. Can you talk about what the business has now become? And you probably already touched on this point, really, to actually be able to cope as a business that's, receiving such rapid demand.
It's not difficult. It's difficult. I can assure you now. I don't want anyone to think that it's rosy. When you're growing a business that's growing really fast, it's a full-time job. It's not uncommon for a lot of people in the team to work 100 hours in a week. Every day there's someone getting up before the sun and goes to bed late at night. So there's a lot of work to do. How are we doing it? We're spending a lot of our time on systems and training, getting our culture right. A lot of our revenue has to date come around the sale of our technology to farmers so that they can supplement their animals, and we're seeing our supplement revenue starting to increase now because of that. But again, it's all about people. It's about good fiscal management, good governance from a board perspective, and as I say to the team, just getting out of bed every day and putting your foot on the accelerator. It never stops. The biggest responsibility we have as a business is we have shareholders that we need to work really hard to give them a financial return, and also make sure that we're still getting out of bed for our why every day for our shareholders and who have invested in DIT for more than financial gain.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think because of the unique proposition of your business and the way in which farmers were probably using traditional methods, using the tools that they had before, it's unlikely that you'd have any direct competition. But do you have direct competition, and really what differentiates DIT from it? Because a lot of people coming to this are understanding that AgTech has been a big focus in the last few years. There's been a lot of investment going into AgTech, but a lot of businesses are perhaps even coming up against fresh challenges, and it's not necessarily always a very competitive landscape. It's quite a collaborative one. So out of interest, what does differentiate your product directly from competitors, and are there any direct competitors?
Well, I'll start first on some of our monitoring devices. Yeah, there are competitors. There are 2 sort of more major competitors that are selling tank monitors, but they really only got one proposition they're selling to a farmer. And I talk about our toolbox. When we go to a farmer, what's in our toolbox that we can provide more services? So we sell monitoring equipment. There are a couple of competitors. Our core product being our doses. There are some very rudimentary mechanical devices that are on the market. They're very inaccurate. They don't have any safety functions when you're feeding some of the urea and phosphorus that we feed in Northern Australia. There are no competitors who have got electronic dosing devices like ours. There are no competitors who use remote monitoring to manage nutritional opportunities. And there are no other supplementing businesses that are putting supplements in the water in the form of urea and phosphorus to the scale that we've got. So that's a real competitive advantage. A lot of also just some people have said to me, Robbie, do you have patents? Yeah, we do have patents on our chemistry innovation. We think we've spent quite a bit of money on getting those patents published in Australia, and also all of the PTCs published in all the treaty nations. Yeah. We think that they're very defendable. We've used a very good patent attorneys. But as society would know, you never know where the next disruption is coming from. Something that we put a lot of time in is this first mover advantage that we've spoken about quite a bit, is building out a network of making sure we're relevant to the farmers and being on farm. Now that costs money. And that does cost money to have staff everywhere, but we're lucky because we've got these big revenue machines in our supplements and the rent of our tech and our telecommunications, the data we sell. So it actually is really efficient to have people out on the ground with these properties. And again, that's how we really are. I think we will defend what we've got from competitors, is because for a competitor to come along, they've got to not just build out the tech, the animal health. They need to build out the network. They need to make sure they're relevant. I think we're in a great position to when the day comes when we get disrupted. But at this point in time, Robbie, no. AgTech's a frontier, and I say it all the time. It is a frontier. It's a trendy word that's said in the metropolitan areas, everyone to get into AgTech. But from a business leader and a CEO, I do a lot of travelling all around Australia. I never see any competitors in the middle of the Northern Territory. I don't see any competitors in Northern Queensland. So it's a tremendous opportunity for us as a business to capture and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the most fascinating parts of your product is the reporting that you're able to pass on to the farmer. And I think that, that's just such a unique proposition because it's valuable. It's only really as valuable as the increase in production and also efficiency that the farmer can see and visualize. If that system's put in and the reporting itself isn't as thorough as, something like DIT, then obviously why wouldn't you go to a product like DIT if it's, less capable? It just makes
it's an easy sell for us, Rob. Water supplementing has been around in the industry for 30 years. There are a lot of problems. The greatest thing that we've got when we actually are selling our products to a farmer, we're sitting around a table having a cup of tea with a farmer, is most farmers have heard of water supplementing and they've heard all the problems. Then when we tell them how we've solved this and solved that and used chemistry innovation, and we've done all these things, they say, geez, that's incredible. I can see how you've now worked this out. And the next minute is we're installing a machine and we're collecting data with them and we turn them into a customer. It's an easy sell. It's an easy sell. And if we can show we can, even if they were to buy one of our doses, a farmer with 500 head of cattle, they can pay that doser off for 10,000 within 90 days. The CapEx payback is so quickly. And if they're renting out doses, about a day and a half and they've covered the rent of that doser for the month.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you've even touched on this and you've talked about being disrupted, but obviously you're the disruptors at the moment. So this is your huge growth spurt as a business, but perhaps, what challenges do you really anticipate for DIT that you're going to have to overcome? Maybe some more immediate ones for obviously the addressable future in the next 12 to 24 months. And what's DIT doing to overcome these? Because obviously you've mentioned COVID. It's no doubt been an issue with being able to travel to some of these destinations. Maybe not so much in Queensland where you're based, but definitely for perhaps growing, the company in states like New South Wales and Victoria.
We're looking at the border closures every day in Southern Australia. I think, by early next year, we'll be back down in Victoria and South Australia and those places back working again. Northern Australia is a bit easier. We've got all the permits. We can move pretty freely now between Queensland and Northern Territory, some parts of New South Wales into WA. But the challenges for a business like us are pretty straightforward. When you're growing fast and there's an opportunity out there you want to capture and you want to grab scale and you want to get that first mover advantage, capital is always important, managing cash flows. I like to keep thinking about track record today. We've navigated through COVID. And for a startup business to have come through the way we've come, I'm really proud of the team. It's been difficult, but it's testament to the strength of our business model, I think, testament to the team. So that's been a really challenging thing. Keeping our tech relevant is also a challenge. Not getting too funky for the customers, making sure that when you sell a piece of tech or a piece of innovation, a farmer can get it straight away. They understand, they can see results straight away. And again, another challenge is actually hardware. Probably it's really difficult to develop hardware in the remote areas of Australia. I use an analogy for people that, if you were to take one of these iPhones and put it in one of our dosing boxes in the middle of the Northern Territory, and you left your phone there for 2 days, you'd come back and it would be cooked and it would never work again. Where we've built electronic devices that are communicating with satellites day in, day out in the middle of nowhere, and they're operating day in, day out in some places up to 60 degrees Celsius where they're operating. So again, that's the challenge, hardware, but it's a great skill that we've got as a business. We develop all the tech internally ourselves, write all the code. We don't outsource any of that. And that's probably why our tech and our hardware is going well, but it's still a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, for any business in any environment, it's going to be challenging, and so it's really interesting to hear your unique challenges that you're going to face as a business. But in kind of, I guess, as a reference to any business that's growing very quickly, Shoe Dog is probably one of the most entertaining stories that represents an issue with growing a business quickly, which is obviously in relation to Nike and cash flow problems and how to manage them in a very entertaining way. But I think any business owner can fully relate when you've had exponential growth. So I think even moving on to this, you mentioned about how much you're doing really to try to reduce environmental impact. And this is something which is very close to a lot of people's hearts. And I think maybe that's partly how you're going to answer why DIT has chosen to equity crowdfund for the second time, as opposed to using more traditional capital raising methods, such as going to high net worths and VCs.
Yeah, I've probably got a bit of a personal passion for equity crowdfunding,
Yeah.
Robbie, not because of it's such a great and innovative way for startups, but probably more myself is just the ability of everyday Australians to invest in businesses like DIT at such an early stage.
Yeah.
And if those businesses execute on their growth strategy and they do find that exit as an asset or an ASX listed or a NASDAQ listed business, or they do a trade sale, the financial return those early investors can get. Because as you know, traditionally, startup businesses have been funded by high net worth families and VC and private equity, and they've been the ones that have got that exponential return on their money. Crowdfunding allows everyday Australians to be part of that. They don't have to invest a lot of money so that they can be part of it. And I visualise the day when our exit comes along and some of those early everyday Australians who've invested $1,000 have got some really great returns. I'm looking forward to the day that I can feel that I've been responsible to help those people grow their investment.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. I couldn't agree with you anymore around DIT doing it, and also early stage startup companies, because it's just democratizing it for everybody else who otherwise really wouldn't have the opportunity to invest, because you being in your position, a very fast growing company in AgTech, people knock on your door and they say, "Hey, Mark, you need some cash. We'd love to have a chat." And going down the route of equity crowdfunding as opposed to that, I think it gives us such a great opportunity to be able to work with a company like yourself, and also, like you said, everyday Australians to invest. And in obviously getting to the end of those questions here, I'd love to encourage people who are just tuning in, who feel like there's other questions which they really want to know answers to, because we're right here and we can answer them for you right now, as we're speaking, of course. But Mark, do you feel like there's anything which maybe we haven't touched on that you'd love to elaborate on a little bit more? And I'll do that, of course, after just highlighting the fact that we've got 2 weeks left in the campaign, 175 investors already on board, and just over $317,000 raised so far. So campaign is closing on November the 5th at 10 p.m. as it currently stands. But Mark, do you feel there's anything that maybe we haven't covered in as much detail as maybe you'd like?
Yeah, probably something, Robbie, I didn't, another reason why I think equity crowdfunding, I really believe that, everyday Australians in the metropolitan areas care about agriculture and food security. We don't talk about it enough. Probably we could have the climate debate about, whether you believe in climate change or climate cycle. One thing I think we all agree on is the planet's getting hotter. And when the planet gets hotter, it's harder to feed people. And what we don't talk about is we don't talk about food security. We don't talk about how we're going to feed this growing population. And I think that comes from a political perspective. But the amount of people that reach out to us to be part of everyday Australians and through equity crowdfunding, I think people, understand that it is a really important thing that we need to address, food security, and investing in us, those everyday people, is a great way for them to help us shore up food security.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's been such an interesting business to learn a lot more about with DIT itself, and, being based across Australia, I guess in kind of going to that business itself, there's a lot which can be answered in the offer document for people who really want to break down those financial statements and really understand the cash flow statement, the balance sheet, and the last financial year the last financial year P&L as well. But we've actually just had an anonymous question which has come in here. There's quite a few questions here, so maybe I'll ask one at a time and we can go through some of these. How much is the director's fees? I'm not too sure actually what that's sort of in relation to.
I can tell you that. So there's 3 directors on DIT. We're paid $20,000 each to be a director. And I can tell you none of us have been paid in the last 12 months because we wanted to make sure that the business survives. So that's what the directors are paid. And I know the next question will probably be, how much am I paid? I'm paid $100,000 a year, and that's my wage.
Yeah. And then following on from this is, what is the max increase of the director's fees? And what is the breakdown of the loan to related entities? Can we get a breakdown?
Yep. Yeah, yep. So that loan to related entities are some money that I've personally put in, and some of our employees and some of our suppliers have foregone their services because they wanted to help us build our business, especially in COVID in the last 6 months. One of the things I did as the CEO of the business very early on, because I didn't know where COVID was going to go, I knew we had to shore up our cash flow position. I found ways that, I could talk to people, like, could you help us navigate our way through? So that's what the related party loans are for.
Yeah, for sure. And that really does explain this, because obviously the individual is asked about entities that have gone into liquidation. We touched on this a little bit earlier. But of course, the businesses now which you've asked about, of course, have kind of mentioned here.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you there, Rob, but I will say something about what probably people don't realise is we're a public company, DIT. We are audited, so we have external auditors. We've got quite a good audit policy in the business. So there's a lot of transparency in every single transaction that has occurred in DIT. And again, that all goes back to that corporate governance, which is really important that shareholders understand. And putting on a new director, one of the reasons for that is a non-executive director, someone who's not part of the business on a daily basis, who will be there to manage those smaller shareholders and their investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And Taryn here has kind of asked around a similar question here in the chat function, which you might be able to see for yourself. Obviously, thanking you for answering the question. One item that he'd like to address in the presentation is the comment of the new director and no mentioning of their name. Perhaps this is the non-executive director that you've just appointed, kind of highlighting that governance is critical, and thinking that it would be beneficial to mention their name. Of course, governance is very important, especially for a public unlisted company. You are audited, and so it's essential to your business moving forward and the success of it. But perhaps you'd like to talk a bit more about that director.
Yeah. So the new director it's under a confidentiality clause at the moment on who he is. And he will probably, towards the end of November, will make it public. Right now, we're still in some negotiations because he's coming on for a very clear reason. One is a non-executive position, but also with his corporate experience for us to access our next lot of funding and our next growth. But I can say that he's not a director at the moment, but when he will be, all the shareholders will be notified immediately.
Yeah, great. Fantastic. That makes a lot of sense. I think the way in which you've set up DIT is it's obviously very focused on the future and being able to set yourself up for success moving forward by having the right people in place. And so I completely understand, even the reasoning behind some of this. And obviously, while it might not be completely clear to absolutely everybody who's looking at it, in early stages, governance is always very key, and also protection of privacy for that individual who you might not be able to. It sounds like obviously it's going through the process of being all solidified and approved very soon. But if there was a process in place whereby it wasn't, then obviously the individual would rather remain anonymous, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think that the context of what we need to take out of it is that our current board realises that as we grow, we raise more money and we expand, we also need to continuously keep enhancing corporate governance and protection for our shareholders and best in class management practices going forward.
Absolutely. Well, look, we've got to the end of our questions. If anybody has any final questions that they'd love to ask, they feel maybe we haven't touched on too much, then please do ask them at this point in time. As I've mentioned, there's 2 weeks left in the campaign. There's so much information which you can find in the offer document on the virtual page. But if you need to know any questions about equity crowdfunding in particular, you can always message me, robin@virtual.com. I will send everybody who's attended an email with a recording of this session, and also my email to be able to just reach out to me directly. And of course, Mark, so you can have a chat together if you're not already on the EOI list, and you probably haven't already had a conversation just as of yet. But Mark, is there anything else that you'd like to perhaps close on just before we finish up today's webinar?
Probably not, Roy, just that, everyone knows that, my personal phone number is out there. I really encourage people that have got a question, they want to have a conversation one-on-one about any questions on open book, any tricky ones they want to ask me, that's fine. Just pick up the phone, give us a ring. Again, if they want to have a Zoom call, and, for people who are in North Queensland or in Queensland, I'd like to come have a look at our production facility in Townsville where we build all the tech, you're more than welcome to come and have a look around as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think the next 2 weeks are going to be really exciting for everybody who's joined on board. And really, I just can't wait to see how much we can get here in this capital raise. But I'm pretty sure that the next 2 weeks are going to be very exciting, and we're going to see a lot more people jump on board because you have built such an impressive business here. And there's such a wealth of IP which you've developed, and I think that that's so important for startups which are experiencing that growth phase. So, Mark, it's been great. We'll obviously chat soon. For everybody who's tuned in, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and look forward to connecting again soon.
Thanks,
Take care,
Roy.
everyone.
Thanks, guys. See ya.